Fairy tales begin thus. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, and it is not a chance. Fairy tales are written in order to take you to unknown lands where everything is possible and where you can find a way to defeat your problems. But have you ever wondered what fairy tales are and what is their purpose? Fairy tales are stories that take place in worlds full of wonders, where adventure, love and magic intertwine, fascinating children and adults. The main character of these stories is usually a human being, who must carry out several feats, such as defeating dragons, ogres, giants, or escape from an enchanted forest. Fairy tales are often confused with other literary genres, but even if they are similar, there is always a difference. For example, fairy tales are often confused with fables. Obviously, they are very similar, but while in fairy tales the characters are human beings, in fables they are talking animals. Another important difference is the moral, which is explicit in fables and implicit in fairy tales. Another example is mythology. The main difference is that the purpose of myths is to explain the world and its natural phenomena. But there are also two other differences. The main character, that is a god, a demigod, or a superhero in myths, is a mere moral in fairy tales, and the happy ending, which is steady in fairy tales and uncommon in myth. On the contrary, there is no clear differences between fairy tales and fantasy. The traits and the structure of fantasy and fairy tales are the same. But while fairy tales use a simple language because intended for children, fantasy is full of descriptions and uses a more complicated language because it is intended for an older public. So, we can say that fantasy is an evolution of fairy tales, a grown-up fairyland that keeps the marvel and magic of children. The Russian anthropologist specialized in folk tales, Vladimir Prop, stressed all the common elements in fairy tales, in particular the main characters and their functions. Prop pinpointed 31 functions which are common in most fairy tales. The most important 10 are: absence. A family member leaves home. Interdiction. Someone addresses a prohibition or an obligation to the hero. Violation. The prohibition is violated or the obligation is accomplished. Villainy or luck. The villain damages the hero or a member of his family. It can also be an order to kill. Mediation. The damage or the luck is made known. It can also be an unaccomplished order. Provision or receipt of the magical agent. The hero receives the magical agent. Struggle. The hero and the villain join in direct fight. Victory. The hero defeats the villain. Punishment. The villain is punished. Happy ending. The hero marries the princess and ascends the throne. Fairy tales are an instrument of utmost importance in psychology, but especially in child psychology, because they teach them that in order to realize their dreams, they have to be brave, persevering, and kind. In fairy tales, the heroes undertake a personal journey, which represents a passage from child stage to adult one. The reader identifies himself with the hero and unintentionally undertakes the same journey, solving in this way an inner conflict. In fairy tales, there are some recurring images which are worthwhile for the solution of psychological problems. These images are called archetypes. Archetypes are part of the collective unconscious and are primitive mental images. The main archetypes are the mother, the wise old man, the shadow, and the self. In fairy tales, these images are represented by some steady characters. For example, the evil stepmother. She is part of the archetype of the mother and represents the negative feelings the children feel for their mothers. In order to keep the mother figure unchanged, fairy tales divide her in two parts: the good mother replaced by an evil stepmother. The good fairy. She is the positive part of the archetype of the mother. The main objective of the good fairy is to help the hero. When the main character is a girl, the fairy helps her in improving her femininity. When the hero is a boy, the good fairy helps him in escaping from prison, which represents a too intrusive mother figure. The hero. He is the main character of most fairy tales, and he can be a prince, a thief, a wretch, or a lame person. The only thing that matters is what he has inside. His heart must be pure in order to accomplish the mission. The villain. He is the antagonist of the hero and represents the archetype of the shadow. The role of the villain is essential in fairy tales because it completes with the hero the psychic unity of the human being that is neither totally good nor totally evil. But how do fairy tales influence the mind of children? One can think that children are carefree and very innocent, but the truth is that they are human beings, and some problems and some thoughts are innate. One of the first problems that children must face is the relationship with their parents. Children completely rely on their parents, and when they are no longer at their disposal, they feel abandoned and rejected, and start to experience negative emotions for them. As said before, fairy tales solve this problem, dividing the figure of parents in two parts. Another problem faced by children is the Oedipus complex. During the phallic stage, children are usually attracted to the parent of the opposite sex and see the one of the same sex as an enemy. In this case, the child would become fond of stories where the hero defeats a dragon or a prince saves the damsel in distress. Some parents feared that fairy tales would be deceiving for children, but the truth is that they understand that the world described in those stories is not real. When a child asks, after listening to the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, for example, "Is it true?" He's not asking if giants exist, but if they can be defeated. In this kind of story, in fact, the giants represent the adults, so this fairy tale gives them the hope that one day they will be able to defeat their parents. But the most important thing to know about fairy tales is that no one is too old to like them or to have psychological benefits from them. When the problems of your life overwhelm you, there is nothing better than a good fairy tale, which takes you to a faraway land where you can lose yourself and forget about your problems. In comparison with this kind of stories, including fantasy and other wonder tales, where a hero has to defeat a dragon or a giant, problems of real life seem less unsolvable, because, whatever the problem, it surely cannot spit fire.